should always be a healthy sense of fear, because that's ultimately what's going to wake you up in the morning and keep you motivated.
It's a good motivator, yes.
Keep you going. You should have that healthy sense of fear. But when it starts to steal opportunities from you, that's when it's unfortunate, right? And fear steals over weeks, over months. You may look at it as procrastination, and it may steal over a lifetime. But, ultimately that's for the best, because as a business owner, you're leading folks in your community and you have to lead them through fear.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of Fran Coach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of Fran Coach and your podcast host. Today, we are going to be joined by one of our franchise partners, and we're going to be talking about a brand that really kind of hits a higher end, a little bit more luxury type of customer, but providing a service that you may not equate with a higher end luxury type of service. So excited to chat with them today. First, as always, a quick reminder of who we are at Fran Coach. Fran Coach is the premier franchise consulting firm. Our number one goal is to properly educate you on franchise ownership to determine if you should own one. And if so, we're going to help you find your absolute best fit. Our educational approach ensures we focus on the client's best interest. We are not here to sell you a franchise. In fact, we don't sell anything. Finding the best franchise to own is an incredibly personalized and individualized process that can only work with a team of experts focused on what is truly most important. That's you. Fran Coach, our services are always 100% free to use, so reach out to our team. Click the QR code or find us at francoach.net. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, folks, we are back here on the Franchising 101 podcast. And joining us now is not just some joker who works for a franchise. This is his baby. We've got Mr. Nick Lopez, Sr. joining us today from Lime Painting. Nick is the founder of this brand and excited to chat with you. Nick, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Maybe don't thank me yet. You haven't seen how this goes yet. So I hope you're ready. Got a bunch of things we want to talk to you about, and certainly a ton of questions about lime painting, but you've been franchising a long time. You know this is a people business more than anything else. Give us a little story on Nick and how did all this kind of come to be?
I'd love to. Well, I'm from Denver, and I went to school out in Michigan, out of all places. I went to Michigan State and had a ton of energy as a kid. So my parents put me in a bunch of sports to keep me from tearing the house apart. And I have 4 kiddos now, and they certainly show me why my parents had to do that. But I started wrestling in high school, and I actually went to Michigan State to wrestle, and wasn't on a scholarship. So my parents had told me, if you go to school out of state, you're on your own, and they meant it. So, I'm 18 and you're getting credit cards in the mail. So I maxed out a credit card, and I was off to East Lansing. Didn't do a lot of traveling growing up. So it was probably my first or second flight out of Colorado. And I found myself on campus, and I wrestled my freshman year. And in the meantime, I had maxed out other credit cards, and I received a $2,200 tuition bill. And, as a college student, I didn't even have 2,200 cents. So that was a lot of money. And thankfully, my wife, who I met my freshman year back in 2008, she had that $2,200, and she graciously lent it to me. And that's how I was able to stay in college. I went there for business school, marketing and sales. And so, borrowing money from her wasn't sustainable. but
Something was going to give with that, right?
no kidding. So being that I was pursuing business, I started a painting company out of all things. It was called Spartan College Painters. If you recall, back in '08, there was a great recession, and I was in Michigan, which, Detroit was really driven by the auto industry, and that was really the main space that was impacted during that time. So thankfully I was green to business and a little bit naive and didn't think too much about all the foreclosure and short sales that were going on in the neighborhoods I was working in. But my focus was, hey, I have big college bills. It was like, back then 6 figures. I'm sure it's more now for out-of-state tuition. And so I looked at, the bigger the home, the bigger the college bills, it was going to help me pay. That was my logic. So I found myself working for a bunch of affluent homeowners, and they kept telling me things like, Nick, thanks for showing up. Thanks for doing a good job. Thanks for answering your phone. Real basic compliments, right? Things
Right.
you would expect.
Right.
But it was so fragmented. I called it the Superman model, where you had one guy doing everything: painting, hiring, scheduling, estimating, and customers really suffered from that lack of consistency in the market. And I was really confused because these folks, spent more to get more on their homes, their cars, the restaurant they ate with at friends the past weekend. And yet on the front end of working with them, they're asking me things like, Nick, are you going to run off with my deposit? Are you going to charge me more when you start the job? Are you going to job hop? I said, what does that mean? Hey, you start the job and then you're gone for a period of time, and then you show up one day. And, so they were really expressing these experiences that they had in the industry, the lack of trust there. And I started getting in my business degree, learning about very basic things like competitive advantage. And the light bulb started going off for me in those lecture halls about 2.5 years into my time in college. And eventually I got into my marketing class and learned about positioning. And my professor shared, if you have 2 axes, one being price and one being quality, if you're high price, high quality, that's your lane. If you're low price, low quality, that's your lane. And when I drew on my experience in the paint space in that high price, high quality sector, I started realizing that there weren't a lot of options. And clearly there was a lack of customer satisfaction, and did some research nationally, and nobody was focused on the space. And I shared this with a mentor, and he said, Nick, you need to read this book called E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Turns out, it's one of the most influential books in franchising, but it opened my eyes to the space. It was the first time I had heard of franchising. And in that book, Michael Gerber talks about creating processes and systems that can be duplicated across a simple team. And sure that, that's business in a nutshell, really. But
Right.
what I really resonated with was this whole idea of being in business with other business owners. And me loving sports growing up, some of my most fond memories in college were in the locker room with the wrestling team, or, hanging out with the hockey or the baseball team, the gymnastics team. And so I really loved the whole aspect of grinding it out with your teammates, and, the off season and the season when you're working toward your goals, and there's adversity and wins and losses. And so when I learned about franchising and being in business with other business owners, I knew franchising was for me. This was back in 2010. And I spent the rest of my 3 years in college. I was on the 5-year plan. You take 12 credits instead of 15, it's a little bit cheaper. So I did what Michael Gerber talked about, worked on systematizing the business, applied my sales and marketing business degrees while I was in the field, and got a lot of feedback from employees, painters, professors, and eventually moved back home to Denver in 2013 and launched Lime Painting. And we worked on, growing the business. We grew it to a multi-seven-figure business, our first 4 years. And that first year I thought, hey, if we do 30 jobs, that's great. I'll get some references, get a feel for the market, really establish that this works in more markets than just one. We ended up painting 100 homes. And I never thought I would be in the paint space. For me in college, as I mentioned, I didn't travel a lot. So my wife grew up very different. Her dad's a doctor, and they would travel down to their condo in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. And when I first went with them and I landed in Florida, I was in love. I couldn't believe Florida existed. It was nothing like Colorado or Michigan. And so I was going to go to the University of Miami and work on a master's degree for commercial real estate development and get a JD and do property development down in South Florida. But this painting business really wooed me to it, and the opportunity became more clear through my education. And frankly, I fell in love with this space. Being a 18, 19, 20-year-old, I loved all the compliments. I love the fact that my competition set a bar so low that I could compete with them. And I'm working for these affluent homeowners. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy in-home sales. It's lawyers and doctors, executives that you're working with, but it's in their home. It's very personal. So I found myself talking about their hobbies, where they traveled, the homes and cars they owned. And so I really fell in love with in-home sales. I was getting my sales degree, and I was implementing a lot of what I was learning with Michael Gerber's advice of systematizing that part of the business. And, meanwhile, I'm transforming these assets that are highly valued in these beautiful neighborhoods. And that was instant gratification. So yeah, it really wooed me to it. I didn't think I would be a painter. And, over those first 3 years of college, it really cemented my future in the space. When I moved back to Denver and launched Lime, those first 4 years, we did a lot more than painting because, the clients want to pay more to get more. They want to do it right. And as I got into my coatings career, I started learning that paint is just that. It's more than paint. It's a coating. And these estates have many surfaces that make up the property, from the stamped concrete on the floor to the gutters. Every surface in between is deteriorating from sun and water damage. So, the metal, the brick, the wood, the stucco, many surfaces beyond just paint. And so we standardized coatings to restore and protect these highly valued assets, with the intent to, do the job right and use high grade solutions, whether it's the coatings or the artisans that we're working with. And so today we do over 40 services inside and out. It's residential and commercial. So we are a painting, coatings, and surface restoration company. And we really solidified those services those first 4 years preparing to franchise. And I joined the IFA in 2016 and worked on my CFE, learned about the space, and then worked with some advisors 18 and 19. And then we really started scaling in 2020 out of all years, right? COVID. So
you like those big memorable times to start things, 2008, then 2020. And but Nick, let's go back to your parents. Did we thank them because they could have just paid for your school And I don't know, you'd just be working some random job someday versus having the desperation of, holy crap, I got to pay tuition. So let me start doing something and ends up painting houses. It's like you took that kind of little adversity of, oh crap, and whatever. And now not just getting yourself through college. Now you got this amazing franchise, really all because your parents told you to pay your own damn way to college. So you're going to do the same thing with your kids?
Yeah, something to that effect. They've been running lemonade stands, and this past weekend, they took all their toys and went around the neighborhood and were knocking on doors, selling their toys, and came back with some cash. And I was laughing. I'm like, my gosh, all our neighbors are going to know our kids is coming around and knocking on their door. So.
Yeah, they're all going, oh man, that painting franchise must not be going well. Like Nick's got his kids out peddling stuff, but really you've just raised entrepreneurs. So I love it. So talk a little bit with Lime, because it is, and again, it sounds kind of like it started accidentally of the demographic you were able to serve. You were able to see very from the beginning. I think just in home service in general, the bar is so stinking low that if you just don't suck, you're like average, let alone being exceptional at it. So you've kind of taken that into Lime, where it is, you're not just painting everything. You've got a very targeted demographic for who that customer is. And again, having all those different things. So like that is pretty much the focus of Lime, right? You're looking at that kind of higher end home or business, those bigger jobs is really the focus. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're focused on the top third of home values on the residential side. So every market's different. Boise may be $500,000 plus, Denver $1 million, LA $2 million plus. And so we're awarding 6,000 protected homes in that top third. And then on the commercial side, it's totally unprotected, but we're really focused on commercial properties on the commercial side as well.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you started out like everybody does at the beginning, is like you're doing everything. Now, as a franchise owner, what are you looking for them to be doing? Are they out there like, in the white with the brush painting all day long? Talk a little bit kind of about that typical day in a life for an owner.
Yeah, we're looking for empire builders, right? We have an empire model at Lime. Some of our owners own locations across multiple states. And so the business is very scalable. My first year in Denver in 2013, even though I had 5 years experience, I wore both the sales and operations hats before I started building up my teams. But we have a very simple org chart. We have a general manager. Usually that general manager wears a sales hat. We have account managers who wear the sales hats, and then a production coordinator who is quarterbacking all things quality control, working with our artisans. And so that's it. That's our org chart: a GM, a sales rep, and a quality control position on the production side. And so as an owner, understanding the sales part of the business, understanding the operations part, getting in and operating your first year, first couple years, you start to speak the Lime lingo, you learn the Lime way, and you're better able to teach and scale with your team. And so as folks have done that, and they've solidified GMs and markets, they want to scale and grow more. And sometimes their state is sold out. So organically, they've moved to another state, and now they're operating across multiple states. The most amount of states that an owner is currently operating in is 3. And so, we have multiple folks in a few market or a few states. And that's been great because it's created a lot of jobs in communities, and those systems that I learned in college, specifically my sales degree, it's created a consistent process that can be learned and coached. And, our trainers and our academy is, all about teaching those systems on the sales and the operations side.
So do you see a lot of your owners coming in then essentially kind of taking that kind of GM position at the beginning to really kind of build everything up and then maybe kind of grow themselves out of it long term? Is that what typically happens?
The majority, yes. Some come in and recruit a GM and work alongside the GM. We don't really advise not operating or totally removing yourself, especially early on, and relying on an employee to establish the foundation of your business. So,
right.
Yeah, exactly. Most folks come in and they wear that GM hat. They develop a sales team, and eventually a senior account manager is developed, and most practically that person steps into the GM position over those first couple years.
Yeah, love that. Fran Coach is the premier franchise consulting firm. Our number one goal is to properly educate you on franchise ownership to determine if you should own one. And if so, we're going to help you find your absolute best fit. Our educational approach ensures we focus on the client's best interest. We are not here to sell you a franchise. In fact, we don't sell anything. Finding the best franchise to own is an incredibly personalized and individualized process that can only work with a team of experts focused on what is truly most important. That's you. Fran Coach, our services are always 100% free to use, so reach out to our team. Click the QR code or find us at francoach.net. Now, let's get back to the show. Then talk about your painters. They are, because you didn't, when you talked about the org chart, you didn't mention them. You actually used a different word. You used artisan. So, because again, we're a little higher end. I like that. But somebody's out there doing the work. Talk about how you're finding them and how they are kind of fit into this kind of payroll equation, so to speak.
Yeah, we're a 100% subcontractor model currently. And so we have a certification on who we're looking for, how to identify them, how to onboard them. One of the greatest benefits of working with subcontractors is they're independent contractors. So they have their own insurance and workman's comp. Clearly, they're training their fellow craftsmen, and so they maintain their own equipment, and it makes for the business to be a lot more scalable.
Yeah. Yep. And certainly leaner at the beginning. And I think one of the, I'm sure you hear this with your candidates kind of looking at line painting. The subcontractor thing will freak people out more than any other kind of labor right off the bat. But as people, I think for the most part, as people kind of learn about it, you're like, because everybody's got that fear of like being a homeowner of, man, it's so hard to find anybody good. But oftentimes it's because I can't find any good painters because all those folks are doing jobs for line painting, right? Like once you find them, they become pretty darn loyal because they enjoy doing the work, and you guys are basically feeding them these great jobs to go do, right?
Yeah, if you talk to any professional in the paint space and you say, hey, what's the most profitable sector? They'll say, exterior painting. And if you lean in a little bit more, they'll say high-end exterior painting. So, yeah, when you're working with the most profitable sector in the paint space, and you're able to keep those artisans consistently busy, we're handling the account management, the customer service. And so our artisans are really focused on what they do well, which is the craftsmanship. So it makes for a great long-term partnership. One thing I didn't mention is that LIME stands for love, integrity, mission, and excellence. And so,
okay,
our customers, we talk a lot about delivering happiness. Customer service is a big part of what differentiates us, and our partners, frankly, anyone that joins LIME really leans in and commits to those values. And frankly, we don't talk to a lot of folks that don't align, right? And that's the whole point. But
yeah.
where I'm getting at is that those values are a differentiator when it comes to the long-term relationship with our artisans. Frankly, they're also living in that space that's highly fragmented. And so a lot of times they are being taken advantage of in the industry. They're not treated very well. When it comes time to receiving payment, they're usually taking a haircut. The receivables pending for a good period of time. And so it's very basic. We pay them more. We pay them right when the job's done, and we keep them busy. Those three things help with retention, but how we show up, how we treat them, and the intentionality around the relationship, that leads to a long-term partnership.
No, I love it. Say that the acronym again. What does LIME stand for? What are those four things?
Love, integrity, mission, and excellence.
Okay, love it. And I was going to ask you because it's lime. Your colors are, of course, kind of that lime. I'm like, do you lose any alumni points with Michigan State because you don't have the actual Michigan State green? We've kind of different shade there. Like, I'm guessing they're okay with that because we give them some good plugs on this thing, right? They're still okay.
Right. No kidding. Well, if you watch Michigan State, if you watch them, they've implemented lime green on the football,
in some of their stuff,
football uniforms and basketball. So,
are you going to take credit for that?
I take credit. Most certainly.
I would totally do that until somebody calls you out, and then still keep doing it. So, talk about some of the support mechanisms. So I'm guessing, like most franchises, you're not getting owners with like, oh, I've been painting for 20 years. This is kind of something new to them. Talk about some of the things, maybe some of the main things that you're like, man, we really do a great job from a training and support standpoint for our owners with blank. What's that for you guys?
Yeah, our academy is robust. It's systematic, and it's tailored to where our owners are at, whether they're emerging, they're established and mature, and which roles in the company somebody's training for, right? So not just our franchise partners, but their teams. And so those same trainings are tailored depending on where they're at in their tenure with Lime. And I thought we had the latest and greatest LMS when we launched. And so we've stayed current and modern. We've updated our LMSs so that we're up to speed with the technology for learning. AI is crazy. It's really streamlined our training. And so we really implement technology with training. And when it comes to pricing and understanding what services we're offering, our proposal building and pricing technology is really slick. Our team has done a great job of developing it over the past 5 years. And again, AI is really leading that. But when you think about all the services that we offer, our average proposal has 7 line items, right? And they're very detailed. So, being able to, just shoot a video and get measurements and pricing quickly is something that we take a lot of pride in. And, we've developed from the very beginning. That's helped us to scale. And when you're new and you don't really know the lingo, having that kind of technology to learn on or to lean on so that you can learn, but then also have it efficient, because, a homeowner, when they're receiving, our average ticket is 20 grand, right? So when a homeowner's receiving a $40,000, $50,000 quote for their 10,000 square foot home that's worth, $3 million, it's important for us to get that proposal to them in a timely fashion, so that when they see that price, there's not sticker shock. They're everything that we do in our consultation with our customers about educating and training their eye so that they see and understand what we see when it comes to sun and water damage. And so that stays top of mind. And so, our consultation process, again, it goes back to my degree, but then our technology allows for efficiency, especially when you're learning and you're new to the business. Our deposits are 50%. So when you're launching, it's built into the model, that cash flow, so that when you're ramping, you're just focused on sales. That's not only is the education intentional, but the way that we've structured your launch so that you're focused on growing a portfolio of work. And then when you start recruiting your subcontractors, you can keep them busy. And so we're not just training, we're training strategically.
Got it. Obviously, big part of every franchise support and help is kind of the marketing, and you've got a very targeted demographic you're going after, doing things to make the phone ring for your franchise owners. What are some kind of local things that you've seen your owners do to get out, build relationships, to kind of get some business that way?
Yeah, community engagement's critical, especially in a home service company. You can't really sit back and pay for digital leads. And so we have a very intentional process for getting out in the market and getting involved with the right organizations and focusing on the right demographic. It's important to learn how to say no and where to put your focus and where you're going to get the best ROI. Our model is not great for every customer. It goes back to positioning, right? We're high price, high quality. And so understanding that top third of home values in the market, we're not going to get into commercial work up front either, right? We're going to build infrastructure with those high-end homeowners. And a lot of those high-end homes are like commercial properties in terms of size and scope. So it's also a longer-term cash flow game on the commercial side. But once you start getting past your first year, that's a great, value add that you can put into your community and into your business, more importantly, speaking to the commercial side.
Yeah. How do you coach owners, especially at the beginning, to say no to, me calling up and going, yeah, I got this, little house over here. I need a couple rooms painted. And the owners are like, man, I need some business. I need some jobs coming in. I'm guessing those are pretty often conversations for newer owners of like, say no, keep your focus over here where it needs to be. How do you guys do that?
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate. We have an ownership group that's really committed to collaborating and the success of one another. We have a couple franchise coaches that combined have done, around 15 million in revenue. So they've done the business model. They speak the lingo. They actually both served on our FAC as the president and vice president for 3 years. And so they understand the importance of sticking to the model and not only understanding it, but being able to firsthand say, hey, this is what I did and this is what I experienced. And no, you're not crazy. Keep leaning in here. And but more importantly, once you go out and you do that estimate with that person that's not in demographic or not a qualified prospect, you quickly realize that they're getting 4 or 5 other bids. Going out as an operator and doing that, you start to realize that's not the best use of your time. And our coaches are able to obviously look at our CRM data as they're coaching and be able to talk through what's in their pipeline. And those price points that are not at our average, those are easy ones to zero in on, especially when somebody's launching. And so having that first person, hey, I've done it, and okay, you did it, and look at the results. And so the data really drives behavior. And our model is very sticky when it comes to that luxury customer, because frankly, nobody does what we do. We're the largest luxury painting brand in the country. And we take a lot of pride in being that one-stop shop for our customers. And once we've trained their eye to understand that it's not just your paint, you have a custom home and the sun and water's deteriorated all of these other surfaces, now when they do their due diligence in the market, it really validates that what we do is unique because other service providers aren't doing it. And frankly, they're going to have to work with a lot of other vendors to do what we do at Lime. And for the homeowner, that's an inconvenience. So letting the model, the great thing is that our systems align with our sector. And so just letting the behavior validate what our operators have been trained on, that really reinforces, okay, I should be doing this and not doing that. And so it's a little bit of that, let them get out and operate and let them see that that isn't going to be the best ROI.
Yeah. And I think one of the hardest things for anybody when they become a franchise owner is like you're becoming a franchise owner because you are a smart person. You have been successful in other things, and now you want more control owning a business. To take that smartness and basically turn it off and kind of be dumb at the beginning and just sit there with like Nick and Nick's team at Line Painting and just like nod up and down, yes sir, yes ma'am, and really trust and follow that process, because that's kind of why you're going into a franchise system. And I think it's hard for, again, smart people. Like, you got to kind of turn your brain off for a second and really and truly trust that process. So it's great you've got that team around them, people who have been there and done that now can kind of calmly just go, this is our market. Stay focused on it, and it's all going to work out. So I love that, man. I want to throw one other thing at you. You've been basically like dang near since you were old enough to vote, been in painting and been in this business, and this is your baby. You've been around franchising a long time. For somebody out there listening right now that is kind of wondering, hey, is franchising in general for them, what maybe is some kind of piece of advice that you would give them?
Look, franchising is most likely new to you, right? You've gone through a due diligence process of exploring opportunities and if franchise is even right for you. And so with that is uncertainty. There's going to be fear that pops up throughout the process, and that's normal, right? But the key is identifying that fear and allowing it to be there, but channeling it to motivate and inspire you. There should always be a healthy sense of fear, because that's ultimately what's going to wake you up in the morning and keep you motivated.
Motivator, yes.
Keep you going. You should have that healthy sense of fear. But when it starts to steal opportunities from you, that's when it's unfortunate, right? And fear steals over weeks, over months. You may look at it as procrastination, and it may steal over a lifetime. You may not get the franchise opportunity that you had set out for, that was your dream, your goal, because fear got the better of you. But, ultimately that's for the best, because as a business owner, you're leading folks in your community and you have to lead them through fear. And so if you're not able to do that, a job's probably better where you can follow somebody else that is able to navigate that fear. But I would ultimately give that piece of advice. Start to become acquainted with your fear and understand when fear is nudging you. It's normal. It's a healthy part of being an entrepreneur. And frankly, it's inspiring for your team, because everybody's aware of that fear, but your ability to compartmentalize it and lead through it, befriend it, if you will, and have fun with it, over time, that muscle grows. We have a lot of owners that, maybe they come into the system and they have 1 or 2 units, but they eventually want to acquire more. When they go to purchase 2 more territories, that fear comes about again. And so, same thing.
I always think if it doesn't pop up at the end of the project, if you're looking at a franchise, it's kind of like dating. If you don't have like a little fear, like, man, am I really going to get married here? like that, I feel like that's normal. I'm more concerned if somebody doesn't ever like show that at all, because I'm kind of wondering, are you really taking serious this opportunity? So yeah, like, and you're right, you have to kind of embrace it, and it becomes a little bit of a motivator as well.
Yeah, that fear will come back when you start hiring, when you get out on your first proposal, when you get to training. And so it's a part of being a high performer. It's a part of being a leader. It's a part of doing things that ultimately change your life. It's a little bit scary. It's a little bit uncertain. Unless you're like me when I was 18 and just naive and went into the Michigan economy. And but I'll tell you what, in 2020, when the world was shutting down and I was investing more than I'd ever invested in expanding, we had worked out some expansion strategies, and it was very clear what was going to work for us. And so I chose to double down, but I'll tell you what, it was, it didn't come without navigating fear, but it was fun being able to step in and really set the tone for our expansion by taking the leap.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, and congratulations to you on what you have founded and built with line painting. And Nick, man, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today about line painting.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Hey, thanks again for tuning into the Franchising 101 podcast brought to you by Fran Coach. I hope these episodes continue to educate you on the amazing possibilities that can be achieved through franchise ownership. In between podcast episodes, if you still want to learn more about franchising and the ways in which Fran Coaching can help, there are a few places for you to check out. First, tune in to the Franchising 360 show. It is the only nationally syndicated television show about franchising hosted by me and Danielle Wright. Our TV show airs every Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Biz TV. Next, check out the Fran Coach YouTube channel, which is Fran Coach for You. You can find tons of franchise-specific content there. Plus, you can catch past episodes of the Franchising 360 show. If you like to read, we encourage you to check out our book, Becoming a Franchise Owner. You'll never guess what it's about. And finally, when you're ready to take that first personalized step and explore the franchise industry further, please reach out to our amazing team at Fran Coach. You can click the QR code or find us at francoach.net. There is never any fee for our service, so let us help you create your better tomorrow.